iPhone 13 Pro Max versus iPhone 16 Pro Max. Should you upgrade, and what are the differences between these two phones? If you are excited to find out, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. If you are currently looking at your iPhone 13 Pro Max and thinking, should I upgrade? Well, I have some good and some bad news for you. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is a very small improvement over the iPhone 15 Pro Max. So if you thought that the iPhone 15 Pro Max was not enough to make you upgrade, then most likely the iPhone 16 Pro Max will be also the same deal. It will be disappointing for you. So should you upgrade from the iPhone 13 Pro Max to the iPhone 16 Pro Max? Well, right away, in the first 2 minutes of the video, I will give you the answer. No, I don't think you currently need to upgrade from your iPhone 13 Pro Max to the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Should you? Well, that's a different question. Currently, the iPhone 13 Pro Max is still a very powerful device in 2024, while the iPhone 16 Pro Max is Apple's newest flagship phone. So, what are the differences between these devices? The design of these two phones is very similar. The iPhone 13 Pro Max still has the same design as the iPhone 12 Pro Max. It was a very small iteration of the iPhone 12's design, while the iPhone 16 Pro Max differs, but not that much. The iPhone 16 Pro Max adopted the same iPhone 15 Pro Max new design. Newish, because this is just curved edges against sharp edges. This has sharp stainless steel edges, while the iPhone 16 Pro Max does have curved titanium edges. So the iPhone 16 Pro Max feels smoother in your hand. Although it's still flat, still gives you that premium feeling, it's smoother, easier to hold for long periods of time, and I do believe if you hold these two phones next to each other, you will notice the difference. So in terms of design changes, you won't notice that much big of a difference. The only two big differences you will notice is the sharp edges made of stainless steel and the curved edges made of titanium. So yes, different materials, a little bit of a different design, but the overall feel, the overall look is the same. And the iPhone, in terms of big design changes, haven't suffered one since the iPhone 12s. So yes, if you have the iPhone 13 Pro Max, if you have the iPhone 16 Pro Max, both will feel very similar in their hand. The iPhone 16 Pro Max will have a better weight distribution because of titanium, it will be more durable because of titanium, in my opinion will look better, with less fingerprints and less dirt. Yes, the shiny stainless steel, it's a very cool thing, until you see all the fingerprints and dirt accumulated on the sides, while the titanium on the iPhone 16 Pro Max hides it better. So in terms of design, no big change here, but in my opinion, all the refinements made until the iPhone 16 Pro Max makes it a big improvement over the iPhone 13 Pro Max. One thing that is definitely not a small upgrade is USBC. Yes, the iPhone 16 Pro Max features USB-C, while the iPhone 13 Pro Max features Lightning. The Lightning port is outdated. The Lightning port is dead. Apple has been changing all their current devices and releasing the new ones with USB-C. So you shouldn't be buying an iPhone that has Lightning in 2024. If you don't have any of these phones, don't buy the iPhone 13 Pro Max. I would prefer you to go for the iPhone 15, for the iPhone 16, because those have USB-C. USB-C is the port of the future, Lightning is dead. And this is a big issue. So if you have the iPhone 13 Pro Max, you might not notice this, because you do have lots of Lightning ports around, you do have Lightning accessories around. But trust me, once you switch for USB-C, you are never going back. If you have a laptop, it has USB-C. If you have a tablet, it has USB-C. If you have a calculator, it has USB-C. So everything is USB-C nowadays, and having the same charger for everything is so convenient. So Apple adopting USB-C was one of the best things they did with the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And now with the iPhone 16 Pro Max, we are taking and reaping the benefits of it. So currently, the iPhone 16 Pro Max features USB-C, the iPhone 13 Pro Max features Lightning. So if you do really need USB-C, then I think this is a big upgrade for you and a must one. Another two big changes on the hardware side that I was not expecting when Apple launched the iPhone 13 Pro Max is, of course, the two customizable buttons. On the iPhone 16 Pro Max, you will gain two buttons, the action button and the camera button. The camera button allows you to open up the camera app and use it as a shutter or the menu settings button. But I do believe that the most value lies on the action button. You can turn your action button in anything. I mean, it's so crazy. Currently, I use it for having ChatGPT on the tip of my fingers. Whenever I'm using the iPhone, if I want to access ChatGPT, simply click the action button and I have AI on the tip of my fingers. While the iPhone 13 Pro Max does not have that option. It still uses the old ringer switch. This is cool. This is a tactile and a hardware function that it works really well, but I think it's outdated. Now the iPhone 16 Pro Max, you can have that on the action button, or you can map it for everything else. Shortcuts make this button very, very powerful. And so I do believe that this is the most powerful new function on the iPhone 16 Pro Max that is also present on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. As for the camera button, funny thing, the camera button on the iPhone 16 Pro Max is the biggest gimmick but the funnest thing that Apple implemented on the iPhone in the last few years. Yes, it's a big, big gimmick because it has no actual functional use. I mean, everything that you can do on the camera button, you can do on the screen. So it makes the camera button kind of useless. But no, it's so fun. Whenever you click on the button, it opens up the camera instantly, and then you can use it as a shutter button. You can slightly press it once and change all the settings here, double tap it, and then change the settings menu you want to use, and then long press it to take a video, short press it to take a photo. It's so useful, it's so different, but it's still a gimmick. I need to see more. I need to see more apps create new use cases for this button. Currently, Apple has presented some cool ones with AI, Apple Intelligence, but they are still not available, and even the tap to focus should be pretty cool, but is also not available. So currently, the camera button is not more than a gimmick, and yeah, if you have the iPhone 13 Pro Max, currently the biggest change will be the action button. You can map it for everything else, and especially if you are a power user, go on YouTube, find out cool shortcuts to put on your action button, simply enjoy. As for the rest of the hardware, we have small changes. The speakers, the overall weight and premium feeling. Everything, it's a small improvement. First, the weight. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is lighter and has a better weight distribution compared to the iPhone 13 Pro Max. So after a long period of time on your hand, it will feel different, it will feel better, it will feel less heavy. Of course, this has stainless steel, this has titanium, that's the reason. Titanium is less dense, but is more durable than stainless steel. Oh, another thing that is also important to mention is that because this iPhone has stainless steel and this one has titanium, you need to be very, very careful with two things. Stainless steel is strong, but not as strong as you're probably thinking, while titanium is strong, and titanium can scratch. Titanium can scratch titanium, and can scratch materials that are less durable than titanium. So you have any type of bracelet, if you have any type of jewelry, if you have any like really expensive gold, be very careful not to scrap it together with your iPhone, because it won't damage your iPhone, it won't, but it will damage your jewelry. Especially gold, like high level grade gold, it will be easily scratched by this titanium frame. Although this is a mix between titanium and aluminum, titanium is durable, trust me. I have an Apple Watch Ultra. I've ruined some furniture at home because of that. I hit my table, I hit my closets with the Apple Watch Ultra. It leaves a mark on wood. So be very, very careful with titanium. I like to use it caseless because it's extremely durable, but this is still a slab of glass. This is still a sandwich of glass, titanium, and glass. So don't drop it, it will shatter. While the iPhone 13 Pro Max is also a sandwich of glass. But the thing is, stainless steel is less durable, and if I look at my corners, I have some dings and scratches, and yeah, it has been 3 years since I've used this phone, still love it, still use it almost every day, and it still looks almost brand new. But here's the thing, the iPhone 16 Pro Max uses titanium, and the iPhone 15 Pro Max also used titanium, and in 1 year of using titanium, it still looked brand new. So durability is much more improved with this new titanium frame on the iPhone. Oh, and according to Apple, we also got a new screen, a new ceramic shield technology, so your screen should be less prone to breaking. I'm not sure, never dropped this iPhone far enough to break it, to test it. Go on YouTube and check it out. Other than that, the hardware is it's a medium level upgrade. I mean, 3 years have passed. I have seen more innovation in 3 years than these two. But you got a lighter weight, more durable material. You got USB-C instead of Lightning. You got better speakers. I mean, it's a pass by me. If you live in the US, I need to warn you. The iPhone 13 Pro Max still featured the normal SIM tray, while the iPhone 16 Pro Max does not. The iPhone 16 Pro Max is exclusively eSIM. So if you live in the US, this might be a big deal for you. One of the most important aspects on a phone that makes lots of people upgrade is the screen. And the iPhone 13 Pro Max, for the first time ever, featured 120Hz. While the iPhone 16 Pro Max still features the same OLED 120Hz display as the iPhone 13 Pro Max, with some slight upgrades. Instead of having 1200 nits of peak brightness, is now 2000 nits of peak brightness. And it can ramp down instead of 10 Hz, can ramp down to 1 Hz. Oh, and it's also more dimmable. So if you dim both displays to the minimum brightness level, the iPhone 16 Pro Max will be less bright. So you have more range to work for. This is important when you are at bed and everything is dark and you want to use your iPhone on a very dark place. Having a more dim screen is also more comfortable for your eyes. So the iPhone 16 Pro Max display is better, but it's not that much better. So expect iterative changes, more brightness, which might be very useful for outside shooting, for taking videos, for taking photos, and might be also useful for playing games. Whenever your iPhone dims a bit because of performance, then having a brighter display will have more room to dim. So yes, having a really bright display is cool on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, but this is still 120 Hz, this is still OLED, and if you compare them both side by side, do you notice any difference on colors, on color reproduction, on color accuracy, on contrast ratio, anything? Do you notice any difference? Because I've looked at it. I've looked at this clip several times and I can still not tell a big of a difference. 3 years later, both of these screens are still match to match. And if you ask me, is it a big upgrade having less borders? Because yes, the iPhone 16 Pro Max features the thinnest borders ever on an iPhone and on a phone. It has no bezels, almost. And it also features dynamic island, while the iPhone 13 Pro Max features the older notch design. So, if you ask me, is the smaller bezels, is the dynamic island worth the extra money, worth the upgrade? It's tough. It's tough to answer because Dynamic Island has been really good in the last few months. Developers have created so many new features, so many new use cases for Dynamic Island. But I do believe it's still not enough to see an upgrade. So, if you still have an iPhone 13 Pro Max and you love this screen, upgrading for the iPhone 16 Pro Max should not be based solely on a screen upgrade. It's also worth noting that the iPhone 16 Pro Max has a bigger display than the iPhone 13 Pro Max. It features a 6.9-inch display, while the iPhone 13 Pro Max only has a 6.7. As for battery life, the iPhone 13 Pro Max had the best battery life ever on an iPhone whenever it was launched. And it was a big deal because sometimes Apple likes to play with the numbers. Sometimes Apple likes to launch a new feature and it consumes more battery. And so, this new iPhone is not actually the best battery ever on an iPhone. But no, did not happen that with the iPhone 13 Pro Max. We had incredible battery life with the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Specifically, remember this phone having insane battery, like 2-day battery life. Insane. While the iPhone 16 Pro Max has been the best in the last few years. This has incredible battery life, 2-day battery life also. But currently, your iPhone 13 Pro Max is at maximum 2 years old, which if you have the same battery, if you haven't replaced your battery, means that you are still probably at the 80% range, maybe worse than that. And by upgrading, you will experience a new battery. But here's the thing, you can also change the battery on your old phone. And if you do so, you will also get insane battery life. So the question is, should you spend $80 on a new battery and get your iPhone 13 Pro Max battery life to its original levels? Or should you buy a new iPhone and go for the iPhone 16 Pro Max? Well, it's a tough question, because both of these phones, if they have the same battery health, they will perform about the same in terms of battery life. But if you're asking me what I would do, I think if your iPhone 13 Pro Max is still in good shape and you don't see the need to upgrade, buying a new battery is the way to go. As for the chips, the iPhone 13 Pro Max features the A15 chip, while the iPhone 16 Pro Max features the A18 Pro. Yes, A18 Pro. This has the A15. But don't be bothered, these are the same line of chips, just an evolution from one another. So the iPhone 15 Pro Max's A15 chip is super powerful still runs iOS like a breeze. No bugs, no delays, no issues running any of the most recent apps. One thing it cannot do is run Apple Intelligence and play AAA game titles. That's where the iPhone 16 Pro Max shines. This iPhone can play AAA game titles like there's nothing. And that's a really important measure for some people, and it's worthless for another. So, if you do value iPhone gaming, then having the iPhone 16 Pro Max will be a better experience than having the iPhone 13 Pro Max. You can play Assassin's Creed here, you can play Resident Evil, AAA game titles that are not available on the iPhone 13 Pro Max. And if you value Apple Intelligence, if you have seen the intros, the publicity, the ads, and you think, oh, Apple Intelligence looks cool, I want to buy an iPhone capable of running it, then the iPhone 16 Pro Max is a great option considering the other stuff. Because the iPhone 15 Pro Max also has AI, Apple Intelligence, and yeah, ends up being a comparison between that phone and this one. But if you want AI and the iPhone 13 Pro Max does not support it, then upgrading for the iPhone 16 Pro Max might be your choice. And now, the part that obviously everyone values on their phones, the cameras. The iPhone 13 Pro Max features a triple camera system, a 12 megapixel main sensor, a 12 megapixel ultra-wide, and a 12 megapixel telephoto, equivalent to 3x zoom. While the iPhone 16 Pro Max features also a triple camera system, but with all different lenses, a 48 megapixel main sensor, a 40 megapixel ultra-wide sensor, and a 12 megapixel 5x telephoto, equivalent to 120 millimeters, while the 3x telephoto here is equivalent to 77 millimeters. So yes, you have way better zoom here, you also have a way better ultra-wide lens, and a way better main sensor. If you compare them side by side, the iPhone 16 Pro Max has obvious advantages in terms of versatility. It has more lenses, can take different shots, different perspectives more often. While the iPhone 13 Pro Max is, well, not even close. In HDR conditions, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is also definitely better, can retain more shadows and retain more highlights. Also, you can have different tonalities to the iPhone 16 Pro Max, while the iPhone 13 Pro Max is limited to what you are seeing on the screen. Of course, this is very subjective, and in good lighting conditions, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is good, but not the best. While the iPhone 13 Pro Max at night definitely loses. You can definitely tell the difference between a photo and a painting. While on the ultra-wide shots, you can definitely tell that the iPhone 16 Pro Max has a sharper lens that can take in more light. As for the telephoto, I can't notice big differences in this regard, only the focal length. Comparing side by side both ultra-wide cameras, you can notice the difference between these two. The iPhone 16 Pro Max has a 48 megapixel, so it's sharper and better overall. In the front-facing scenario, the iPhone 13 Pro Max also loses. In the telephoto, you can also tell the difference because the iPhone 16 Pro Max has an 120mm telephoto, while the iPhone 13 Pro Max only has a 77mm. That is also not as good. So, in every single scenario, in every single lens, the iPhone 16 Pro Max wins. And even if you go into video, the iPhone 16 Pro Max can take better video with better focal distance for focusing and simply more focal range. So, yes, the iPhone 16 Pro Max video is also better. I do believe that the camera upgrade might be the biggest one between these two devices. So, if you are someone that values their camera a lot, that uses their camera a lot, and they want the best quality available on a smartphone, then upgrading from an iPhone 13 Pro Max to the iPhone 16 Pro Max, it's a must. This device has the best camera on the market. It's so much better than the iPhone 13 Pro Max in several aspects. Of course, if I compare them both, you won't notice that big of a difference. But it has so much more powerful features that if you are a pro, you will value them. And if you can't notice the difference, it's not worth the upgrade. Yes, the price difference might be the biggest deal breaker on this choice. The iPhone 13 Pro Max currently, you can sell it for $450, $400. Maybe you can get that on trade-in at Apple. But the iPhone 16 Pro Max costs $1,200 for the base model. Very, very expensive. And with that, you will get a better screen, a bigger screen, titanium, USBC, the best camera system on the market, and so much more. But is $1,200 worth? Or in this case, around $800, $750 worth? Because that's the price difference between these two devices currently. Should you spend the extra $750, get the problem of selling your iPhone 13 Pro Max and upgrade for the iPhone 16 Pro Max? Only you can answer that question. Thank you guys for watching. Drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel. Bye bye.